But I got to tell you, anger can be like a toxin to your relationship. This is one of the most lethal emotions that I think can sabotage a couple's love life, don't you?
Yeah, especially if somebody is afraid that I never know what's going to set them off. They're kind of like a volcano. They could erupt with anger, and I don't know what it's going to be, so you kind of pull back a little bit.
Yeah, it's a scary kind of thing, and especially if it's contagious. If one person gets angry and then the other person kind of escalates that anger, boy, that's the mixings for a lot of turmoil. So what can a couple do?
Yeah, I think one of the things you have to recognize is what to do in the midst of those strong emotions that can kind of rein it in and reframe some of that. How can you avoid the damaging effects of anger? And one of those things is to avoid criticism in the midst of anger.
Yeah, that's almost always kind of that little spark that ignites that kind of angry eruption, is that little kind of, sometimes it's a dig, sometimes it's just that little comment that you know that person is going to be set off by this.
Yeah, and it's as simple as thinking, you know, how can I express this emotion in a way that's not going to be an attack on my spouse?
Right, but there is also the element of an anger issue that goes deeper than just that. This is the person that really is struggling psychologically with managing this emotion, and they're going to need some help. They're going to need some tools.
Yeah, and usually anger comes when you have goals that are blocked or when you have emotional residue that just stays unresolved and it begins to boil up inside.
I had a reader of my book, High Maintenance Relationships. There's a chapter in there called The Volcano, and that's the person that's ready to erupt, and you never know what's going to set them off. And she said, one of the things that helped me the most was to understand his trigger points. And if you can kind of understand that about your spouse, that can be a pretty good help.
Yeah, we all have hot buttons that can really be kind of those raw emotional moments.
Right. And then the other thing she said was to help him kind of coach him through those angry moments by just reflecting this back. And this takes a lot of discipline, but if you're married to somebody that is really angry, if you can kind of retain a sense of objectivity in the midst of this very emotional kind of situation.
You can even say to yourself, well, this ought to be interesting, rather than getting emotional in response to it.
Right, because anger just pulls you in or really pushes you away. But if you can stay objective and let them know, you know, that this is completely frustrating for you, I can tell that, and I want to stay with you, I want to walk through this with you, and kind of give them their little space to kind of handle that emotion effectively. But I do want to encourage you, if this is a problem that is getting out of hand, you've got to get some objective help. You've got to get somebody that is trained in this kind of management that can really kind of speak into your relationship.
Because a relationship cannot withstand verbal or physical abuse in any way. And if the anger is turning into tirades that are attacks, that are really scary in any way possible or put you totally on the defensive, you really do need that objectivity, someone to be an ally and walk through this with you as a couple.
And you know that this is happening if you're in a situation, if you're in a marriage where you just are constantly walking around on pins and needles thinking, oh, I hope this doesn't set him or her off. That's when you go, okay, we need some real help, and don't neglect it. You know, you want to be intentional.
Yeah, and nobody enjoys erupting in anger, so it's something that they really need help controlling for their own well-being, and they'll be grateful.